Three levels of realities are being instructed to us. Verse 25 talks of the truth, the self or Atma. Verse 26 talks of the fact, which is Prakriti. And together these two are being used to convey that there is no need to grieve over the third level of reality, which is imagined, Ahankar. Atma as the truth, Prakriti as the fact, and Ahankar, the personal self, as the imagination. The truth is beyond perception, boundaries, or change, because it is the truth. So it is not even born. There is no question of its death, therefore, hence no point in grieving. Right? Sorrow ruled out. Prakriti, she is ever born and ever dying. Every moment she takes birth and every moment he dies. So again, there is no point in grief. Sorrow again ruled out. Only the third one, the personal self, is what is seen to go and not return. Therefore, people grieve over it. But equally, we know that the personal self is imaginary. Therefore, all grieving is always over something that is purely imaginary. Makes no sense. Makes no sense to grieve over something imaginary. Are you getting it? Sri Krishna is instructing Arjun in the non-existence of the personal self. He's saying these that you think of as independent entities and hence are reluctant to kill are just waves in the ocean. Huh? The ocean by itself cannot be thought of as ever disappearing. And the waves, well, if one wave falls, another one rises. And the one that rises is not really distinct from the one that has fallen. Therefore, again, there is no point of sorrow over a falling wave. What is causing you sorrow is your belief in the personal self. You think it exists, it does not. Because you are taking ahankar as satya, therefore you are paying the price by experiencing sorrow. Your grief is a result of bad philosophy. Getting it? You are grieving over something that does not even exist. That which exists at the highest level is Atma. That which exists at the factual level is Prakriti. Neither of them can be killed. And that which can be killed is anyway imaginary. So what are you weeping over? Adi Shankaracharya systemized it further. He said there is truth that is paramarthik, then there is truth that is vyavharik, and then the lowest one, pratibhasik. The correspondence is perfect. Paramarthik, Atma. Vyavharik, Prakriti. Pratibhasik, Ahankar. We believe that in the field of Prakriti, there exist entities with independent centers, right? No. No wave has an independent center. Is there any wave independent of the ocean? Does the wave have any sovereignty at all? Then why do we believe that in the vast network of Prakriti, you or I are sovereign? Is even a droplet sovereign? Nothing is sovereign. But that is the cause of our grief. We think that this was independent and now it is gone. Independence means existence, independent existence. Right? And existence can be called an existence only if it is independent. Otherwise, it appears to exist. It does not really. We think it was independent. It was not independent. It rose and fell. It was part of a process. Getting it? That is what is being conveyed to Arjun. Not sure whether Arjun grasped it. But what is certain is that over the centuries, most of the readers of the Gita have not grasped that. These are most misunderstood verses. In fact, the Hindi translation bears testimony to the misinterpretation. You look at verse 27, says, Mrit Vyakti ka punarjan avashya hota hai. He is not talking of Mrit Vyakti ka punarjan. Look at what the verse says. Verse nowhere mentions Vyakti. But the translator brought his little self into the verse. Right. Verse 26 is about Prakriti, that which takes constant birth and dies constantly. Verse 27 is again about stuff in Prakriti. Verse 27 is an extension of verse 26. Nothing has gone anywhere. You are just the body. The body is still here. What can you do to the body? There is all this. You burn all this. And if you do that in a closed system and are able to account for all the residues and products, you take them together, weigh them, add the results, and what you get is exactly the weight of your body. The body has not gone anywhere. It's just that those molecules are no longer in a particular configuration. That configuration was everything. People say the freshly dead body is exactly like the one alive. So what is the difference? They posit that surely there was something within the body that is no more there, and that's why the fellow has fallen dead. Their assertion is that at the physical level, everything is just the same. No, everything is not just the same. Something has changed. If everything is just the same, the fellow would still be alive. It's just that the thing that has changed is subtle. And by subtle, I do not mean mystical. It is as subtle as an electronic circuit. As the technology on a microchip. Subtler than that. Therefore, it is difficult to really gather what has changed in the dead body. But surely what has changed is something material, nothing mystical. And more, as man and science have been able to understand what causes death, more and more man has been able to avert or delay death. It is material medicine that has led to postponement of death, right? There is nothing mystical about death. Nothing otherworldly flies out of the body in the moment of death. Here is a machine. The machine works in a particular way. When that way is interrupted, the machine stops functioning. That's all that there is. And that's not what I am saying. That's what Sri Krishna is saying. Consciousness is material. What you call as consciousness is part of Prakriti. It does not belong to any other world. I have repeatedly asked you to attend to the fact Sri Krishna calls consciousness or Chetana as part of Prakriti, which means part of body. But because it is subtler, so he says Jad Padarth, body can be called as Apara Prakriti and Chetana can be called as Para Prakriti. Nevertheless, both are Prakriti. Every unit of material has consciousness of its own kind. And you will never find any conscious being without a body. Which means the body and the consciousness always go together. There is nothing called a disembodied being having consciousness. But if you separate consciousness and body, you get a lot of superstition. If consciousness can exist without a body, then you can have all kinds of ghosts and phantoms and whatnot. What is the host paradigm? That there can be consciousness without a body? No, sir, no. The Gita does not sanction that. If you understand Gita, you will have to discount ghosts or disembodied beings. There can be no consciousness sans a body, and there can be no body sans consciousness. The iron molecule knows that it must be attracted to the magnet. This is consciousness, albeit of the most primitive kind. Primitive, but not absent. You take an amoeba, protozoa, or something. It is life of a primitive kind, but nevertheless, it is life. Similarly, the electron, knowing fully well that it needs to constantly circle the nucleus, otherwise it would be sucked in, absorbed by the attraction of the positive charge. It is consciousness, is it not? No, so no, it is not consciousness. It is just laws of physics. But then those same laws of physics dictate human life as well. Those laws of physics and physics, when it aggregates, becomes chemistry, does it not? And chemistry at an aggregate level becomes biology, does it not? Small molecules and atoms, they become bigger molecules in chemistry. In physics, you look at, for example, the attraction between two charged particles, correct? Two charged particles, basic things. In chemistry, the number of charged particles increases to 50, 70, 100. You're talking of bigger molecules. And when you talk of huge organic polymer chains, you have entered biology. And this biology becomes your emotions, does it not? So what are your emotions then? Just physics, material thing, electrons and protons. You're not able to see that because of personal association. Hurts. How can my feelings, thoughts be just electrostatics? That's what they are. If your feelings and thoughts are electrostatics, then electrostatics is feelings and thoughts. So I'm entitled to say the electron is in love with the proton. If your feelings are electrostatics, then electrostatics is your feelings. So the electron feels love for the proton. Are you getting it? There is no self here. There are only laws. The electron as an individual self does not decide to fall in love. There is a law at action. The law is doing what the law will do. The electron is just stupid to think that it has decided to fall in love. You didn't fall in love, it had to happen. Your being, your actions are being dictated by a law. And that law is inviolable. You cannot make that law, break that law, modify or amend that law. You can learn that law. That's the maximum you can do. What is then entire spirituality about? It is about learning that liberation is simply about coming to terms with your non-existence. There exists nothing in the first place to be liberated. What will you liberate? Liberation is a joke. Liberation is the last myth. Because, first of all, there is nothing to be. The one you seek to liberate anyway does not. So, at most, it can be liberated of its belief that it exists. And that's what liberation is. Liberation is to make the need for liberation unnecessary. You cry for liberation only as long as you think that you are. I exist, so I want to be liberated. When you learn that you don't exist, it would be absurd to ask for liberation, right? That's what liberation is. To no more ask for liberation. Freedom from freedom. The final freedom. Liberation from liberation. Utter liberation. I do not exist to be liberated. Even to say that I want liberation is to assert belief in my existence. And if I assert that belief, it's certain that I am not liberated. So if I ask for liberation, I will remain in bondage. What is bondage? False belief. False belief in what? Myself, that I am. I am not. I am not. The body is. The body is Arjun, and the body will not die. Stop crying. The body is, and the body will not die. No body can ever die. All the bodies over the last 20 million years that ever died, they are present in your form here right now. Where do you think your body is coming from? Your body is nothing but all the bodies that ever existed. So how is the body dying? The body is not dying. The body is just flowing like a river. Sometimes it looks like this, sometimes it looks like that. Even in your lifetime, the body does not look any one particular way. It keeps changing, right? I wasn't born with a beard, which I wasn't born bald. The body has kept changing, and the body will keep changing. Even after you are buried or cremated. The prakriti of the body to just keep changing. Therefore, death is no specific event. The body has anyway kept changing. Arjun is hesitant. The whole dilemma is born out of false belief. Right? Sri Krishna is teaching Dharma to Arjun. What is Dharma? Dharma proceeds from both. Only when you know can you rightly live. Therefore, Sri Krishna is instructing Arjun in the very essentials of being. You do not know who you are. How will you know what you must do? Why must Arjun fight? All this is so lit, but why is Arjun being told to fight? All suffering comes from ignorance, right? And if an ignorant person gets to have power over millions of people, then there is a huge chance that there would be rampant ignorance, that the king's actions and policies and the personal example he sets will all lead to widespread ignorance. It is human suffering that Sri Krishna seeks to fight. And if Duryodhan ascends to the throne, that suffering is likely to multiply, because suffering comes from ignorance. Duryodhan is himself so very ignorant. Think of the effect he will have on the general population. And that is the only reason the war must happen. Arjun does not understand why Duryodhan must not become the king. Arjun thinks that the war is being fought for personal gains. Therefore, he tells Arjun, Sri Krishna, I do not want the throne. And these riches mean nothing to me if they are to be earned by killing our friends and kin. Arjun is missing the point altogether. The war is not at all about earning riches or the throne or power for yourself. The war is about something else. But what is the war really about? That needs to be conveyed to Arjun, and that's what the Bhagavad Gita all about. The rightful function of the king is to take the population from ignorance to illumination. And it is such an important function which can be understood only if one appreciates the importance of illumination itself. Arjun does not understand that. Arjun does not know the importance of truth. If Arjun can be brought to a point where he sees the utter importance of truth and the non-importance and the non-existence of everything else, only then will Arjun understand why to fight. Otherwise, he'll say, the war is about Duryodhan getting the throne versus Yudhishthir or the Pandavas getting the throne. I relinquish, I abdicate. Don't want the throne. It's not for yourself that you must fight, Arjun. You must fight the root cause of all human misery, which is ignorance, avidya. Duryodhan at the hem would mean avidya itself at the hem. We are not talking of a democracy. These were monarchies, autocracies. The king held absolute sway, unlimited power over the populace. Think of the havoc that the king could wreak if the king had no self-awareness. But for Arjun to fight such a bad contender to the throne, first of all, Arjun must have some self-awareness. Therefore, the Gita. Arjun, please understand what is most important in life. And then see that that which is most important in life is nowhere present in Duryodhan. Then you will know why to fight. The absolute, the one with the highest value, must first be appreciated by Arjun. Only then he will see that the absolute is not at all valued or favored by Duryodhan. And then he will fight for the sake of the population, not for the sake of personal glory or attainment. Just as Arjun is in grief because of attachment and so many other things that are born out of false ego, the entire population will be in grief. Where does grief come from? The ego thinking too much of itself, right? And Arjun can first-hand experience it. I don't have realization, so see how badly am I suffering. And the same kind of suffering, multiplied many times over, awaits the entire kingdom. Ignorance is the mother of all suffering. And therefore, Arjun is being instructed in the highest knowledge, Atma Vidya, self-knowledge. What is the point? The entire point is, Arjun, all suffering comes from belief in the personal self. There is no personal self. What is the purpose of life then? To see that there is no personal self. That is the purpose of life. What is freedom then? To come to a purposelessness. The only purpose can be to come to the point of purposelessness. As long as you believe in the ego, you must have a purpose. And what must the purpose be? To see that there is no ego. Once you have seen that there is no ego, what is the purpose? Now that I am egoless, life is purposeless. I am no more. Who will have the purpose? For a purpose to exist, there must be somebody to carry the purpose, right? I've seen, I don't exist. Who's now there to bear the purpose? So life is now purposeless. Yes. Liberation implies a purposeless life. But as long as you are not liberated, let there be a glorious purpose. And there can be only one glorious purpose. To see that you are not. To come to your own non-existence. As long as you think there is a personal self, grief becomes unavoidable. You cannot say I am and yet say I am joyful. I am joyful is a paradox. Huh? It's like the circle talking of its vertices. The pentagon talking of its radius. Is it possible? I am joyful is similarly not possible. There can be joy when you are not there. The more you insist on remaining, the more you block joy. And that's the reason why joy remains unavailable to most of us. Not that joy is such a scarce commodity, something so elusive or so expensive that we can't attain or afford it. Just that we put an impossible condition. We say, I want joy for myself. Joy can be there, but not to you. Joy is the name of your very disappearance. And disappearance does not mean that there was something and it has to go. Spirituality becomes scary for most people because spiritual teachers keep telling them you have to disappear. And to the listener, it implies that right now I exist, but I must change and disappear. You anyway do not exist. You don't have to disappear. You just have to realize that you anyway are not, you never were. You don't have to disappear. Disappearance sounds so scary, does it not? See, our friend is on the chair right now and he has to disappear. It's like somebody wiping him out with a huge duster. Painful. Imagine Pradeepji holding a huge existential duster to wipe him off his existence. Gone. How does that sound? No, not agreeable. You don't have to disappear. You are anyway. You just have to accept. Yes, I acknowledge. I'm anyway not. All this is just gibberish. You must go, you must disappear, you must drop yourself, you must dissolve. What must dissolve? There is anyway nothing. A beggar is pretending to be a king and you're telling him you must donate me all your wealth. What does he have to donate? You have to just kick him so hard that all his pretense is gone. He thinks he has a huge sword hanging by his waist. Kick him hard. Let him try to pull out the sword. He'll realize it's something entirely worthless that he has attempted to pull out. There is nothing. And you are singing to the beggar, no sir, kindly donate all your wealth. You must be charitable. Dhyan. Renunciation. Dhyan. Dan. Tyag. Tap. And the fellow is acting more and more pricey. No, no, no. I won't donate. I won't renounce. He has nothing to. He is a beggar. He cannot drop anything because there is nothing to drop. But these have become catchphrases in neo spirituality. Let go, drop. What is there to drop? There is nothing to drop. Like a naked man comes to you and you say, you drop whatever you have. What can he possibly drop? Further, when you use these terms, let go, drop, etc., the emphasis shifts to action rather than realization. You're saying drop, and dropping is an action. You don't have to drop. You have to learn that you anyway have nothing. Learning is jnana. Dropping is karma. The emphasis must always be on jnana, realization, not on karma. Do this, do that. No. There is nothing to do because there is nobody to do. But yes, there is nobody, somebody who thinks that he is. That thought has to be pulled out of his mind. What is existence? Just a thought. It is that thought that must be educated. That's what all wisdom literature is about. Educating the primitive thought, bringing it to a point where it can consent to its non-existence. The war is not what it appears to be. It's a war against misery. Misery that is about to befall the people of Hastinapur. Krishna is trying to redeem, I do not know how many million people. A historian would tell better. What is spiritual practice then? Constantly remaining watchful and seeing the center of your actions. Seeing the predictability, the materiality of it all. How mechanical it is and how pattern based. Seeing how your face is not at all distinct from the faces of the billions who have been. Seeing how nothing new ever gets done. Seeing how all human thoughts and actions and feelings are but permutations and combinations of a few very primitive instincts. That's what spiritual practice is about. Looking at the self, being watchful, and seeing where it is coming from. If you can see where it is coming from, you'll realize it is not coming from you. More and more you will see nothing is coming from you. It is all coming from somewhere else. If nothing is coming from you, then do you even exist? If everything is coming from the center of the larger system called Prakriti, then do I even independently exist? Nothing is coming from me. If nothing is coming from me, then I'm just fictional, phantom, imaginary, no? What am I doing inside, supposedly, if nothing comes from me? I keep running around. Where does that come from? The old monkey. I'm so cunning. Where does that come from? The fox. I'm so scared. Where does that come from? The rabbit. Whatever I do, it is coming from something out there. If everything is coming from this, that, where am I? Who gave me my name? Somebody out there. Who gave me my religion? Somebody out there. Who gave me my thoughts? Somebody out there. If everything is coming from somebody out there, where am I? And you will see, no, you are not. You don't exist. That's called coming to the fact of your own non existence. Do not speculate. Do not ask what will happen after that. First, come to that point. Come to that point because you want freedom from sorrow. Come to that point and then let things flow. Look at the way you look at me. Millions have looked at me this way. What's new? What's independent? What's original? Look at the way you sit. Look at the way you wear. Look at your skin. Look at your thoughts. Look at how you interpret what I say. Anything unique, authentic, original? Happened so many times before, will keep happening. It's impersonal. The person is a myth. And so is the personal self. Somebody wrote a love song 1,000 years back. You're still singing it. Don't you still sing them? Don't you still sing them? How is it possible that your feelings resonate so much with what was said 10 centuries back? What's new then? What's new then? Grandfather was wooing grandmother with much the same hormonal energy that you display to your girlfriend. What has changed?
So my question is on the setting of the Bhagavad Gita in general. So in the Mahabharata and in the whole of Aryavarta, Krishna was the most capable ruler and in the best position to fight the Kauravas. So why did he choose to go through the Pandavas? Why did he not take up the reins himself? When
History does not bear that out. Sri Krishna himself had to go towards the southwest because he didn't want to be in a hostile environment. So it might not really be factually true that Krishna himself was best placed to fight the war or something. Had that been the case, had that been practically feasible, probably he would have taken that route. Think of where Dwarka is. And in those times, it wasn't a very pretty proposition to go that far down south, southwest. Hmm. This was the central kingdom, Hastinapur. The largest army and the resources and everything. The Mahabharata tells us of various instances when rulers of Hastinapur actually went about conquering all the neighboring kingdoms, Ashwamedh and all. So there is a reason to believe that Hastinapur itself was the central power. See, there is nothing else that guides the actions of a wise, learned, I'm not saying enlightened or illuminated. Simply, let's just keep it earthly and say a learned, compassionate being. General good. the welfare of the masses. That is the last objective. If you have nothing left to do for yourself, what else would you do? You are still not dead. The body is still capable and moving around. You have a few years, let's say a few decades to live. You spend it in relieving others of the misery that you had once experienced for yourself. So Krishna does not want the population of Hastinapur to suffer. And he will take the most appropriate route possible. That's what he has taken. In fact, as you know, after the war of Mahabharata, even Dwarka did not last long. If we are to believe the legend. So, not that Sri Krishna was some miraculously omnipotent divine figure. In the field of Prakriti, nobody is omnipotent. Only Prakriti is. Human beings take birth in the common sense of the word. Live, then die. That's all. There is no omnipotence there. There is no eternity there. There is nothing called a supernatural being. All beings are natural, prakritic. So is Sri Krishna as a human being. And he is doing the maximum that he can do as a human being. Right?